All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the January 18th, the last day, at least in the U.S., of the old administration. By Monday, it would be a new administration. And interestingly enough, that will be part of our discussion today. On the stage, I have with me our main guys, Clark, John Clark, Neil, and Stefan, or
Hi,
Steven.
all.
Hey, guys.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Good evening.
Yo.
All right, so we were talking about something before we came on live. Do you want to keep going on that?
So what now?
What we're saying now?
Wait, what were we talking about before we came on live?
We were having a little giggle about the dance monkey.
Oh, right. Yeah, so I haven't been in the comments, so I haven't seen that. But yeah, I guess now it's Dance Monkey, right?
Yeah, I
Really?
think that
He
one
actually
should
changed
stick.
it? He's always a nice little mover.
And I haven't seen A-Pot on for a while, but I might be wrong.
I
Oh,
was
I
talking.
think
I was
he did
I was
kind of
exchanging
pop
with him
in.
a couple days ago.
Okay, yeah.
I saw him post some shit last night. G'day, guys.
Howdy, howdy.
Hey, Ook.
Hey,
Hey,
I'm really. I have to say, I am pissed that
there's two ways that could happen.
yeah.
It is quite early in the day, so we better check.
Please narrow
Remember
that down.
online.
That-
Okay.
Cha-
This is going to be
Cha-
good.
Charles is not turning up.
Oh yeah, so he couldn't get childcare,
Uh,
and he wasn't, necessarily scheduled for this week. It was going to be the following week, but I wanted to
can I
check with
can
him
I
if.
just run through some of the questions that I was going to ask him very quickly, just not in live chat, if you don't mind, just quick.
Yeah.
That I found out. Charles worked for 5 years at the Kern County Sheriffs. During those years, The Guardian deemed Kern County law enforcement America's deadliest police. 20 million in wrongful death settlements, jailhouse strip searches, all that sort of shit. They were also at the forefront of the satanic panic back in 1988. Of course, Charles wasn't working there then. He left. He only spent 5 years at Kern County during the height of the corruption and charges. He then fought a 4-year battle to help curb discrimination against the veterans of the Kern County's law enforcement corruption scandals.
Interesting.
Interesting point. Read his books. His first book is only 163 pages long. I was going to ask Charles, that has to be, that can't be right. His second book is not available, and the first book is not available on any e-format, and neither is the second. The second book is $65, and I'll be fucked if I'm paying that for a book that is only 196 pages long.
Yeah, fuck that.
The font is really, really small.
Yeah, I mean,
I already got poor vision.
$65 for less than 200 pages is not just a bit steep, it's fucking vertical. It all appears to be self-help and, well, not self-help, the motivation bullshit. Yeah, so I just looking into it, because a few things really irked me about Charles, even though he was a nice guy. So and this wasn't hard to find. I mean, fuck. I'll do it now. Here's the Guardian article. Copy, done, paste. There,
While
it's
you're
in
doing that,
It's in
Boog,
private chat. Yep.
that's interesting that it's so expensive for so few pages, being that I just finished chewing my way through Brandon Sanderson's most recent novel. At less than $20, it was 1,660 pages.
I tell
was a
you
hell of a
what,
chew.
I
But you
love.
get your value for it.
Oh yeah, I love Audible. It's my favourite thing at the moment. I mean, I can get. No, I don't. I'm trying to think of any books that people might know. I do a lot of fantasy, zombie, apocalypse shit. I can get a 20-book series for under $80. That's over. The last one I just finished, 190 hours of reading, of listening. That's pretty good. So Audible. Also, a lot of the atheist host books are available on Audible.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm
Unfortunately-
listening. I'm listening
Unfortunately,
to. Yep, up you go.
QC's not getting paid for an Audible ad.
Yeah,
That's a damn shame.
it is. Maybe we should work that in.
Let's hold
Let's
off
not-
on discussion of Charles for this one.
Yeah.
We will.
I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, and I think it'll definitely be worthwhile discussing when he's on. But for this time, we'll be discussing. Let's see, with
Joe Campbell.
Joe Campbell, and I'm just trying to get the tab. Oh, okay, here it is.
Looks a
So,
reasonable sort of guy.
yeah,
You going live? Not
yeah,
yet.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no,
Are we
we're
live?
live right now.
Oh, I'm a dickhead. All right.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to kind of move on.
Sorry.
So, yeah, so Charles can listen to this and he'll be prepared. But for this discussion, Joe had said that, Trump himself has been okay, but most of the harm is coming from those around him. So I disagreed with him and invited him here, and he was willing, and it's just that from his availability, this was his first available time. So anyway, kind of in that regard, we will be going to the Dodger of the Week. And
This is
as
gonna be interesting.
most of you know, the Dodger is the one who runs away as soon as challenged to have a real discussion. And for this week, I have these Twitter people who run away by blocking me. And this one, unfortunately, this is not showing up the front. Sorry. So this original post tweet was from a post that's been since deleted. Oh no, this is actually, I didn't put this in. Okay, so somehow this got messed up, but it's about this person, believe Jesus Christ, who claimed that, I think, what is going on? What happened? Anyway, yeah, discussion was that, she was making the claim that we know God is true because he tells us through self-revelation. So I kind of, gave it back to her and said, oh, I know I'm right because I claim that my brain tells me through self-revelation. So basically, just making that claim is no real argument. And she says, well, that's where we end our conversation. And I said, well, yeah, I know. Most Christians run away when they realize that they don't have argument nor evidence. And throughout the thread, this person provided no real argument, no evidence. And maybe I just got this mixed up. Yeah, this was original one. It was a discussion about the genesis. Something being created out of nothing, and there's another one similar to this. So what happened is that so this was the first one was kind of messed up slide. So when I pointed out that just saying self-revelation doesn't do anything, and I actually predict and said, yeah, I know most Christians run away when they realize that they have neither argument nor evidence, just claims. So maybe next time, don't come into a thread you can't argue. And this is exactly what happened. She had actually posted this same thing on that LOL, except she said LOL typical of atheists. So I just repeated that as LOL typical of Christians. They run so hard when they can't make an argument. So I've actually gotten like 3 within a few days, and I'll just be giving 2 of them. This one and the next one here. This Noah guy, Noah Nonsense. He was kind of saying I was just jeering and wasn't saying anything about my argument. I think this was another one where it's about something coming from nothing coming from nothing. And what he said was that I was panicking and following myself the moment my own beliefs are questioned. He says, love the way these creeps panic and follow themselves. And I have no idea where he got that from. I don't feel like I did anything that's even close to that. And I said, chill, dude. And that's where I invite him. If you have the balls to actually engage in a discussion, to come and join my regular live stream. And that's where he just blocked me. And he blocked me after saying that I was dodging. So this is him saying that and then blocking me. That was, as I said, the cherry on top. He has blocked me. So yeah, there was another one, but I didn't want to make this too many. But it's definitely, I've definitely run into a lot more of these guys where they talk big, like on the YouTube comments, in the Twitter space, in the tweets. They just go on, and then as soon as you stop, because it's like getting to be a long thread. So as soon as I say, okay, if you disagree, come and talk to me, and that's where all the excuses come. So those 2 are, I guess, the co-dodgers of the week.
Hey, Stephen, was that you gasping for air and dying in the background there?
No, I think my microphone kept picking up too much, and I'm breathing. It sounds like it's like that.
Fair enough. I always just stick it on mute when I'm
Starting to sound like Rosemary's Baby.
Hey, do you guys hear the background piano noise?
No.
I can't.
I wasn't sure if it was
I like a bit of
picking it up.
piano. Sorry.
Okay, so I don't have to move. So Joe is on. I'll bring him up to the stage. He's coming on. Oops. Oh, sorry. I have to kick one of you guys out.
You can go ahead and kick me out if you want. That's fine.
Okay, you guys can just. I think you can still listen on. You just won't be on the stage. If you have anything you want to say, just put it in the private chat and I'll bring you up. All right, so on the stage here, we have Joe Campbell. And as I had mentioned, he's from Twitter, and according to his bio, he's a former philosophy professor. So I'm really excited to have you on, Joe. Why don't we... Oh, by the way, I should mention, you did say something very nice about us.
Hey,
You
Joe.
had listened to the previous stream with Joe, and he said that we were a pretty sharp group. So thank you, Joe.
Yeah, I thought you were asking some good questions. I'm upset that Charles is not here, too. I had a lot of questions to ask Charles, but yeah, but maybe we can get him back one day.
Yeah, you should listen to the beginning of the stream where Ook, and we'll all introduce ourselves, had some things to say about that. But why don't we start? If you could introduce yourself to the rest of the guys and people on the live chats.
Sure. So I just retired recently. I was a full professor at Washington State University, and I'm still working. I'm editing my 10th book, actually, a book on the philosophy of Keith Lair. I mostly do work on free will, and I also do work on David Hume, and I'm very interested in skepticism, the history of skepticism. I guess if I had to identify with any philosophy, it would be skepticism. But in the sort of traditional ancient sense. Yeah, so I'm interested in a wide array of philosophical issues, like punishment too. That's one of the things I did want to talk to Charles about. So, I mean, he has a really provocative idea. The idea that retribution is part of restorative justice. That's really what his claim was: is that all justice is restorative.
As far as I can
Retributive
tell,
justice has a kind of restorative role, and I was very interested in hearing what he had to say in defense of that. But
Yeah, so and also you're very active on Twitter with your discussions that pertain to some of your interests, right?
yeah, I try to be provocative and yeah.
I see a lot of kind of long threads that you get on.
Yeah, and I like to. I don't know. I guess I'm somewhat fueled by the feeds that I get.
Yeah. Well, so let's do a quick introduction of the rest of us.
Yeah,
I'll kind of
great.
say myself for last, but Blarg, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah. I'm if you couldn't tell by the accent, myself and Ook are over in Australia, both Queenslanders, where it's currently what we refer to as stinking hot. I have a background in physics and engineering, so and a lifelong atheist, even though I did go to a Catholic school. So yeah,
Great.
That's me.
Oh, by the way, Joe, you said you did listen to the previous stream, so you must have heard some of the introduction, right? So,
I'm sorry. What did you say?
were on the previous, or you saw the previous live stream, so
Yeah.
you must be somewhat familiar with us, right? So,
Yeah, I do. It's nice getting a quick review.
Yep.
I wasn't taking notes when the
Yeah. No, I just want to
the
kind of,
introduction came. I knew somebody was from Australia, and somebody. Well, what I like about a lot of you is you have various different specializations in science broadly construed, engineering, for instance,
Yep.
but also physics and biology.
Yep.
Some people know a lot about biology.
well, so then let's keep going. So, John, go ahead.
Yes.
Hey, Joe. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So John Clark here in the States, sales and marketing background. They put up with me being on the show here, so yeah. I'm not sure what else you want to know, but
yeah, that's good for now.
Oh, and let me just give a call out to the Kentucky Atheist. He also runs a atheist channel. Hey, Joe. Yeah, he's also Joe. Okay, Ook, go ahead.
Oh shit, me. Yeah, I'm again Aussie. What many people would call a bush Aussie, literally born in the public bar of a bush pub. had a strange education because it was ordered by a pope who was a relative of mine, and got my own private tutor sent out from the Vatican, ex-Maris brother, who was an inquisitor in the whatever they're calling the Roman Inquisition now. They've changed the name so many times. But yeah, so it was fun and games, but always been a lifelong atheist. And I figure if a pope is happy for me to be an atheist, well, I take that as a sign from God, you know. Worked a lot, you know, on remote mining and a lot of security work. And last few years of my working life, I worked as a liaison between Australia's largest telecommunications company and the Ombudsman. So basically got to listen to everyone whinge, which was fun. I can also be slightly abrasive and not abrasive, straight to the point. Can't be bothered fucking around.
Yeah.
Something of an arsehole.
Well,
Hey, I'm a bastard and got the papers to prove it.
you know, I'm from New Jersey. It's kind of like the Australia of the United States.
Oh, what exit?
I heard that. Yeah.
I remember I literally was at a party once and there was a guy and he was acting like an asshole. And I kept wondering like what his deal was. And then I asked him, I said, "Where are you from?" And he gave me an exit, like exit 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, I thought you were an asshole. You're just from New Jersey."
That's an old joke about folks from Jersey.
The one of my favourite sayings is the reason there's so many arseholes in the world is because people let them get away with it. And I don't like letting arseholes get away with things. And I've never been formally charged with anything. So I figure that's pretty good.
I keep reminding Ook that I have not yet received any subpoenas for anything he said on the streams.
Yeah.
I used to ride with a bunch of guys that are now classed as a criminal organisation, and didn't do anything really bad. But I also did a lot of security work for pubs. So before I had that safety glass. So I've been glassed, knife shot, machete. Yeah, it's fun and games.
Ook is working hard on correcting that oversight of his younger days.
Yes, I'm only allowed to hit 2 people a year. And it's not accumulative. I'm got to work that out yet. And Crystal's
sometimes
probably...
Ook has to think about what he can tell us because he has to check the statute of limitations.
Yes, unfortunately. But yeah, I do. If I see an injustice, or what I consider to be an injustice, say a guy striking a woman at a party, I have no qualms about walking up to that person and committing several violent acts on them. And
No. You're applying restorative justice.
Oh, is that what I've been doing?
Yes.
I thought I was just beating the crap out of an arsehole.
Well, in the words of John Lennon, instant karma is gonna get you.
Yeah.
You do know that Dance Monkey and APOT are going to take that out of context, don't you?
Oh, but I'm sure they will. I mean, the fact that I've admitted that I'm what's the new term now? Adaptive psychopath. What is it? I had to write it down because it's a new one. Oh, yeah, adaptive psychopath. I used to be a highly functioning psychopath. Now I'm an adaptive psychopath, according to a few psychiatrists.
Looks like
But I've
we
made it
lost
work.
Neo.
It's fun.
Yeah. So we lost Neo. I'm not sure if he's coming back, but I'll go ahead and introduce myself. So I'm the biologist of the group. Um, I and actually, actually, here's Neo. What Neo? Why don't you go ahead? Hello, Neo.
Hello. Sorry,
Maybe he's
bounced
having
out.
some.
For some
We
reason.
can't hear you for some reason.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ah,
Can
brilliant.
you hear him?
Yeah,
I
it's all
can't.
good. Go on.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
So I'm assuming I'm being introduced now. Brett, obviously, science background, and I do a lot of sort of office work with various public services, lately Law and Order. So don't worry too much. Vetting will come to me if there's any problems.
Sorry, slight joke. Yeah.
Okay. Anything
Nope.
else, or you okay? All right.
So I
Joe,
keep going out. Sorry.
okay.
I'm
So Joe, like I said, I'm the biologist, but actually, I have an undergrad degree in philosophy from U of C, and I went into research into a PhD program for molecular biology at Columbia, and I the whole career path for research wasn't for me. So I didn't finish the program and switched industries into telecom. And so I have that as well. So um, that's where my interest is pretty varied. I think like you, I have interest in philosophy, although, after I graduated, I wasn't really actively engaged in philosophy. So I came to it relatively recently when I first started getting on some of these atheist YouTube channels like the Atheist Experience. And I kind of honed my position in terms of atheism. So I'm more of a hard atheist. So I think it might be interesting to kind of have this discussion with you, or at maybe some at a later point, because I do have a belief of a sort of an objective morality, and I do think that it is. I guess there's a supposition that we have to make about reality, about the objectiveness of reality. So I have sort of a mixed science and philosophy view of that. So I think it might be a good future discussion to have. So, and by the way, and this channel I had created because in a lot of the YouTube comments, there were various Christians kind of making comments, and then one of them started challenging people to have a debate, and so I set this up initially for that, and that person kind of ran away as soon as they were challenged. But we did get someone else to come and do a debate, and that didn't turn out very well just because of the format. So instead of this being like a debate thing, I want it to be a discussion. Especially if a Christian comes on here and there's a whole bunch of us just kind of group attacking him, you can't really have a debate. But I think it's fair to have a discussion that's not one-on-one.
QC?
Yeah.
I'll just remind everyone, Neil is a theist.
Oh yeah,
but
that's a good point.
He's our special. He's our special theist.
I'm a pantheist. One thing that you should understand is that I don't really have a lot of philosophical intuitions. One of the reasons I think I went into philosophy is because I've never had any really strong philosophical views about all of the topics seem sort of like up for grabs. And so, I motivate myself to adopt certain views to do philosophy. Really. And I think today, especially on Twitter, it's much more interesting. And, I'm not making things up. I've always had sort of a religious sentiment, but it could be manifested as a form of spirituality. I call myself a pantheist. I call myself a theist, but part of that is because most people who consider themselves theists do not consider me to be a theist because I'm a pantheist. I don't believe in a supernatural. So some of it is a kind of like positioning for, I don't know, various investigations I have about philosophical questions or philosophical problems. And at the moment, I'm writing this. I'm writing the Stanford Encyclopedia David Hume on free will article, and so I've been working on Hume for a couple of years now in preparation for that, and so a lot of it is just motivated by Hume's views, which depending on how you take them, could be it could be endorsing a kind of verbal, suggesting that philosophical disputes are by and large verbal debates. And so a lot of I think what I do on Twitter is an exploration of that. How far can that go? But there is a sort of, one day when I was toying with this Hume idea, I thought, well, and it really comes out in the dialogue 12, the so-called Philo's reversal or whatever. But Hume makes this point that, you could have, I'll put it in my own words, you could have somebody who just has a naturalistic scientific view of the world, but views it as a kind of system, but as one thing, and then you have a sort of traditional theist, and they both think that there's some rational order to the world. They both think that whatever, there are going to be some views you can articulate in a very sort of objective way where you might get areas of agreement. And then, given that the whole thing is a mystery anyway, what do we mean when we talk about the universe? Nobody really knows. Some people include space-time, some people don't. Some people include laws of nature, some people don't. Some people include abstractions, some people don't. That's out of the universe. I think all of these questions are kind of a little up for grabs. They're all different sort of philosophical debates. It's hard to see where to kind of, and that's really, Hume's main thing, is that philosophical concepts are unlike, say, mathematical concepts, where there's a general agreement about what a circle is, what a square is, what the criteria are, and there are agreements about how inferences, how to draw inferences, whatever. And in the case of philosophy, all up for grabs. So but I would say that my views are like, I would consider myself, I would put theists down if asked. It's just when I get into conversations with people, who consider themselves theists. And I start asking questions like, well, what if I believe this? Would I be a theist? And they always, no. So I think I'm not in a lot of theist clubs, according to most people.
Yeah, I think I've seen your post where you said you were a pantheist, but I keep forgetting that and sort of think of you as atheist, kind of like I do with Neo.
And it's fine. I mean, in terms of company, I prefer atheists, and I do think atheists are generally better at philosophy than. I mean, I have this real. I'm totally changing the topic now if I start talking about this. But I primarily work in free will. And toward the end of my academic career, I just had this. It's always been frustrating because I'm a compatibilist, and it's very hard to get published. I've had some very good ideas that really should have gone places, but they didn't go places. There's just like a kind of very traditional set of free will views that are accepted and ones that are no longer kind of accepted anymore. But it's driven primarily by philosophy of religion, not by things about the nature of free will. It's really driven by the fact that some Christians feel a commitment to a libertarian theory of free will in order to get out of the problem of evil. And it genuinely is, even among professional philosophers that work, whose main areas of specialization is free will, it's very hard to engage in conversation with them because it just gets to a certain point. Well, no, I'm not. To consider some forms of compatibilism is tantamount to considering that God is the cause of all evil. I mean, they just don't want to let their mind, even go there. But it's philosophy. There's something bad about that. I mean, don't be a philosopher if you don't want to talk about that. Right? I mean, and what I love about atheism as a philosophy is that it is confrontational, and it's like immediately approaching the questions directly, not trying to hide behind certain problems that they won't expose because it will reveal other sorts of things. I don't know. And so there is a kind of honesty in conversations with atheists, philosophical conversations, just in my own experience. Now, if my philosophy friends, all of whom are theists, like the free will gang, hear this, I'll probably be written off and forgotten forever. But
hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Being that you're clearly familiar with the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and atheism, what's your take on the entry for that topic?
For which topic?
For atheism.
For atheism, I guess
because
I'm not familiar.
It takes a very it goes in places that are not typical for your average atheist. It takes a philosophical one that makes atheism a proposition or a statement rather than a I don't believe sort of position. Right. It's a I believe not.
Yeah.
Well, it acknowledges that there's soft atheism, but it almost dismisses it.
Yes, it does. It just kind of tosses it out, says it's of no value.
Yeah.
That is interesting because I mentioned that the philosophy I guess I sort of associate with the most is skepticism, and there's a similar thing you can have. I mean, as like sexist empiricists tried to explain it, it's deliberately not supposed to be a doctrine. but there's a similar difficulty with um, characterizing it, and yeah, I'll take a closer look though. Um, that would be too bad, I guess. At least maybe you should write the author because they could change those. They could update uh, those citations.
Yeah, because I know I've looked at some of the discussions of the definition of atheism from some other sources. I think there was a source from another university. I'm just trying to remember what it was now. That I'm sure Graham Oppie had a hand in it. That takes a really different view of what it is, and one that's much more aligned with the way most atheists would view their themselves.
Mm.
Yeah, it was a book. It was a handbook of atheism.
Yeah.
One of the English universities, I think. But anyway, yeah, something handbook of atheism it was in, and it yeah had a very different definition to the one found in Stanford.
Yeah,
Mm.
so I I think some of it comes up sometimes when Christians want to try to argue against atheism by saying, "Well, look, here's the Stanford Encyclopedia saying this," because what they want to do is they want to shift the burden to say, "I don't need to provide evidence. You need to provide evidence that there is no God."
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
always it.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, in that sense, it's very unfortunate that maybe it wasn't written by an atheist.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not to say that it's wrong, right?
Yeah,
But it's more that they are taking a certain stance that I don't think is reflective of most of the atheists.
right.
No, it's a very philosophical stance, not a practical one,
Yeah,
and thus rejects pretty well the position that almost every atheist in existence holds. So
yeah. I mean,
But
it's like this. Like if part of the reason I like thinking of myself as a Christian is I can ask really difficult questions that most Christians don't ask. Like the
Yeah.
real question is, like if Christ were to come today, what would he do with atheists? Would he ignore them or insult them in a way that it just seems counterintuitive? I mean, because you've already got people who are thinking philosophically, and you've either got an argument, right, or you don't. Like, so but if you have an argument, you want the crowd that's thinking philosophically, and so you would want to embrace atheists. I mean, you certainly teaching philosophy, it's much better having atheists than people with no opinion in the class because they have things to say and questions too, not just things to say, but questions to ask. But so, it seems like, I don't know, I just couldn't imagine some Christ-like figure coming and not accepting that people disagree fundamentally about certain things, including claims about the existence of God. I mean, how could God not understand that it's a very, very suspicious claim? And then, once you get particular religions which add on all these particularities, then the claims even get more outrageous.
Well, I mean, the most difficult thing for Christians to support their belief is the Bible. Uh, First of all, that's really all they have. I mean, they kind of bring up all these like extra biblical stuff that are, kind of fallacious. But if you look at the Bible, it's obvious that there isn't a commonality throughout it. Like the each of the different books may have a different perspective of what God is, and definitely by New Testament it completely shifts, and there are a lot of inconsistencies that the Christians want to just say no, nuh-uh, and also, the biggest thing that I've kind of picked up, and this is from a channel called Deconstruction Zone, is the idea that Jesus never actually fulfilled any of the messianic prophecies, and Justin, the host, he makes a really good case, and he kind of debunks all the different prophecies, and just kind of calls out why they don't actually either count, or how some of the gospels are actually misreading the Old Testament, because most of those writers were reading the Septuagint, the Greek translation. It's likely that they didn't really understand Hebrew, at least not at a scholarly level. So they'll kind of misunderstand some passage in the Old Testament, and claim that, oh, this is Jesus fulfilling this prophecy. So if you get a chance, you should take a look at some of his live streams or videos. I found it very enlightening.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I think that's a good introduction for all of us. And I was telling the rest of the guys here, I mean, I would love to have you back in future discussions. Obviously, when Charles is on, I would love to
Yeah.
have you on as well. But I think there are a lot of kind of interesting topics that we can get into.
Yeah.
But for this one is a little bit less philosophy bent and more politics. And let me just share this. This was the original tweet that I responded to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that, obviously, just to let everyone know, you're not a Trump supporter, but
Right.
you have a perspective that Trump himself has been okay, but all the real harm came from those around him, and that's where I disagreed with you, and I invited you to our stream, and unlike most other Christians, you were, you accepted right away. So this is great. So let me just start by asking you about this comment here. So just to kind of level set, you're talking about just the Trump first administration, right? Not the anticipated second administration.
No, I was talking about the not the administration so much as the lead up. And this was before he made the comment about Canada and Greenland.
Oh, okay.
I just want to get that out because he had not up to that point, and that was a big part of it, said anything like Trump-like. And I thought, well, maybe he'll just, there was a theory that some of the Trump supporters on Twitter were promoting, and most of, I thought it was bogus, and most of you probably think it's bogus, but after the assassination attempt, I don't even believe in that. That's a big conspiracy theory, but just the whole thing, like, what, did it go through his ear? I don't know. The whole thing just seems kind of crazy to me. But anyway, that after that, he had some kind of, I don't know, moment of clarity or something, that he should be a nice person or something. I didn't see too much during the campaign, but it was interesting to me that he just wasn't saying crazy things like he usually does in the lead up until very recently. So now we see that that's kind of out of the way. And then the other part of that, though, was that second part. I mean, I disagree with most of his decisions, but most of the real harm is coming from those around him. And what I meant there, it was a little more veiled than it might seem there, but what I meant was really that I don't see Trump, like a lot of people think, well, Trump is going to wreck the country, the United States, and that might be, but not because he has some kind of plan, because he doesn't really have a plan, you know. But on the other hand, what he does is he picks people who are self-serving like he is, who could take advantage of these situations, and there's no oversight in the Trump administration at all. So, you know, in a sense, his sort of lack of plan, I don't know, makes the whole thing a little bit more tenuous than than the having of the plan. But then a third thing to say just about the comment in general, it was a kind of token. For some reason or other, I have a lot of Trump fans who follow me, and you know, if we're talking about the Yankees or if we're talking about free will, we're in agreement. And then they're rabid Trump supporters. And you know, I grew up in New Jersey. And I'm old. I'm retired, so I have been following Trump, you know, since the 80s. I mean, Trump was around. He was a big mouth in the 80s as a kid from New Jersey who just doesn't like that kind of style of man, let alone that kind of style of politics. I was teaching in graduate school in the 1980s in critical thinking classes. I was using examples of Trump rhetoric back then. So, I mean, that's how long I've been kind of following Trump and his behavior, his things that he does. I mean, he rips off, he just flat out doesn't pay companies sometimes and gets away with it. I mean, there's just a whole litany of sort of, you know, negative things about Trump. But on the other hand, I do feel like from this he won the election. How many young white men does it take to win the election? You know, he got them. And these people are all victims, though. I feel like these Trump supporters are victims in a way. I mean, they're just as used as all the women he used, you know, just as abused. And, you know, so it was a kind of small attempt to sort of say, hey, well, let's just see how things go, you know, while indicating I'm not sure that they're going to go well, because he hires these people who really need oversight and don't have it.
Yes, unfortunately, in his first administration, it was I put it down to incompetence that limited his destruction, and nobody was sort of prepared for him to win. So there was little set up. But for this next one, it's a lot more concerning, being that yes, they've had 8 years getting prepared for it, and yeah.
And it's amazing the number of people who are kind of just like him. All these cabinet people, you know, they're just, I don't know, they have that same kind of, it's just scary, because you know they're doing a whole lot more behind the scenes than you could witness. And
yeah, I also love the irony of complaining about DEI while nominating people who have zero experience whatsoever to run massive departments.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, yeah.
Well, what do you guys think about Trump? I mean, you're all, or not all of you, some of you are from the States, but some of you are from other places. What do you think?
As I was saying in our pre-show little chat, the problem with Trump from an Australian perspective is that we are very close allies to the United States. So with Trump as the president, when he takes a shit, we're going to have to stand behind him with toilet paper. So.
And in the UK, we've got the alleged special relationship, which half the time seems to be bowing down to whatever the US says.
Mm.
I have
And
many.
the co-president now is wanting to get rid of your prime minister.
Yeah.
I have many friends in the trans community. I have many friends in the gay community, and he outright terrifies them. I am not looking forward to what's going to happen to them over the next few years.
Yeah. And, that is kind of a part of Trump that does aggravate me the most because, like, he's just kind of careless and thoughtless because, there's nothing really about his past that would make him anti-trans, but it's just he's a political opportunist.
Sure.
Just like an abortion, it was a similar kind of thing. So, we have no right to abortion in the United States just because Trump wanted to get elected. That's really all it comes down to. He just wanted to make the decision. He didn't really care that much about it. There's nothing about his political leanings prior to that. He was always very liberal, that would have him kind of coming out in the way that he's coming out on these issues.
Yeah,
I would push back on the idea that he was ever liberal. I would say that he's much more of an elitist and a narcissist. So
a racist.
And a racist. Well, yeah.
Yeah, dyed in the wool racist.
So
he was basically liberal. I think in New York because New York was liberal, right? That's it was expedient.
Just an opportunist.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that. It's okay. Right. Well, how do I get more money and power and influence, and how do I get more people kissing the ring? And that to be in New York, it's easier if you're doing that as a liberal. And when he wanted to go onto the national stage, he read the tea leaves, and clearly he read them right. In that it was easier to create a bunch of scapegoats and call a bunch of old white men victims, and he rode to power on that.
Well, he specifically said that he loves the uneducated.
Oh yeah,
because it's easier for him to trick them.
As I said, I've got family that are diehard Trumpers, and their lives are measurably worse after his first administration, and they still drink the Kool-Aid. It is absolutely abhorrent.
Well, I said I grew up in New Jersey, but I also grew up under the poverty line, and most of the people that, like, from my old neighborhood, they're all Trump supporters. And again, they're victims. They're clearly victims. These people are not going to benefit from Trump's, policies, and especially in the long term.
So he now that he's won the election, he doesn't need them, right? It's not like he's gonna run. Possibly he could run for a third term. They've actually, what's his name? Steve Bannon has actually said that, So who knows? But he's definitely not going to try to help the underclass, the impoverished, all the promises that he made. He's not focused on that. Actually, this is something I had made. So he has said he was going to lower the egg prices, but his focus is on Gulf of America.
Right.
It's just ridiculous.
Yes. No, that's exactly right. Yes. Yeah.
Wait, but going to your initial comment, so the reason I asked you whether you meant his first term or not, because I think in the first term, his danger was actually mitigated by the quote unquote the adults in the room, the kind of the career politicians like the generals who actually had experiences and all that, who actually stopped Trump from a lot of the worst things that he was going to do. So in that sense, the people around him were actually reducing the harm.
Yeah.
But this time around, he's nominating, that Hexeth guy. he's not qualified to run the Department of Defense. He's not going to be able
Yeah.
to do better than, like Milley or some of those other guys. It's like the fact that he's even being actually seriously considered, and I personally think he will win the nomination.
And he promises. Remember, he promises to give up being an alcoholic if he gets the job.
Only if he gets the job.
Because
and
that's
exactly
how
what an
giving up
alcoholic would
works.
say.
Yeah, he's not going to do it now while he's
Yeah.
waiting, but he'll do it when the time comes. He is qualified though because he's able to do 47 push-ups apparently.
That's
Each rep
that makes him a good rep, but other than that,
bunch of them. Yeah. Well, and I mean, what is up with that though, too? The fact that he picks all these people. I mean, besides just being a little sketchy in general, I live in a town where there's a pastor who wrote a book defending slavery, and that pastor actually influenced Hegseth. He talks about him, Doug Wilson. It's a very conservative pastor. But but that element of lack of experience, I mean, they're just hand puppets. They're all just hand puppets. Whatever he wants done, he can get done. And again, the sick thing is he doesn't even have a plan or anything. Right? He just wants.
No, he has a concept. He has
he has the concepts of plans.
Yeah.
What?
Here's the concepts of plans. So, for those of you that want to know his plans, just stand back and stand by. You'll be fine.
Yeah, right. But the thing is, like, so this is where, him picking all these kind of lackeys and people who will do his bidding, like Pam Bondi. She was literally his personal lawyer. So for her to run the Department of Justice, that's absolutely crazy. And all these other guys he's picking, he's not picking them for qualifications. Like Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, she's going to head the Department of Security. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
No, this is about power for the sake of power. This is about attention for the sake of attention. He has to be the center of attention in every room that he enters. And he doesn't care who he hurts, and he doesn't care who he throws under the rug. And you need to look only at the people in the last administration, which were his staunchest supporters. How much does he still owe Rudy Giuliani?
I don't know.
Yeah, so this idea that he's not that bad, he's just surrounded by bad people. No, you surround yourself with the people that you want to be surrounded with, especially as presidents. And this idea that he was incompetent or he didn't know how bad they were, well, yeah, he did, because he has shown over and over again that it all has to fall on his shoulders. If it goes well, then it's his, and then it's his doing. But if it goes badly, then it's everybody else's fault. So he is a bad person. He is an evil person in my assessment. He was evil in the first term, and now that he doesn't have to worry about running for president again, unless Steve Bannon figures out a way to make that happen, he has even fewer restraints now, and he has more people in his immediate circle that are not going to push up against him, and he has a judiciary that he picked, and a Supreme Court that has already made it clear that they lean in his direction. So this idea that he wasn't evil, he was just surrounded by evil, is just the facts and his pattern of behavior, both leading up to the presidency and his first term. The evidence just doesn't bear that out.
Well, Joe, actually, let me take your side, because I was just thinking about this a little bit, and because basically for Trump, he only cares about himself, right? He just wants to make money and advance. And if you think about the the rest of the people around him, kind of using him, right? So they are kind of doing. They will do his bidding, suck up to him, and do whatever he crazy thing he wants to do, and they won't say no to him. However, their own agenda is to you know fill their pockets for as long as possible, essentially using Trump. So, in that sense, they might be causing more harm than Trump. And an example of this is Elon Musk, right? Because people consider him to be the president and Trump to be the vice president. And so Elon's doing everything possible for him to gain influence and be able to, protect his companies and line his pockets. And he will just, you know, kind of keep Trump happy, but his ultimate goal isn't, lining with Trump on some long-term plan. His ultimate goal is just to, like I said, make his own money, and I think that's the same thing with Vivek and a lot of those billionaires. Uh, They just want to get more billions. So if it ends up ruining the country, they don't care, right? They just want their money. So in that sense, I agree with you that the people around him are more dangerous, at least this time around, than before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, I hope my initial comment didn't make it seem like I didn't think that Trump was immoral.
No, 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 not at all.
But I guess it just has. I do worry more about, rather than what Trump will accomplish. I do worry more about situations like what will Musk do, with his power. I mean, none of these people, as far as I could tell, have any ideas beyond that. You know, there was a kind of inefficiency in government that they can cure by firing a lot of people. I mean, that's what they're going to do. They're just going to fire a bunch of people, and they're going to save a very incremental amounts of money. Because salaries aren't really the big parts of the budgets in any of these things that they're in charge of. And then
Well, that
it'll be
firing
interesting to see how
is
much harm is done. Then I'm sorry.
yeah, that firing I don't think is to make things efficient or less costly. Uh, I I think like with Project 2025, I think someone in the live chat mentioned that it's to fill those positions with the Trump supporters, the type of
Mm,
people who would not say no if he wants to initiate a mass deportation of millions of people. He doesn't want
mm,
people there who's going to slow walk things or uh, do anything to
yeah,
obstruct him, right? So I think that's the reason why they might initially just fire a lot of people so they can replace them.
yeah.
So I don't know if we're like what the resolution is of
Yeah.
your statement. I mean, I think it's arguable, for both sides.
And just to be clear, the argument is like whether Trump
Whether it's the people around him that's worse than
better
Trump.
worse than him, or he's
Yeah.
worse than the people around him.
I mean, ultimately, he's the worst one for choosing those people and letting them essentially just manipulate him. Because those around him, they know that all they need to do is just suck up a little bit, and then they'll get whatever. And I think there was like some senator where uh, I think Trump was saying something bad about his wife, which is kind of a common theme with him. And when that was brought to him in like in an interview on TV, he said, "Well, Trump has been really good to me and my wife." Like he just takes it because just kind of enduring that, those sort of mean comments, means that he gets to be part of that circle where he's going to, whether gain power or money or both. So, but it is his fault for letting himself be manipulated like that, and letting people take advantage of the situation. So that'd be my position.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's disappointing is that he doesn't have a plan. I mean, that he doesn't have much interest besides his own self-interest and the self-interest of other rich people. I think he is. I do think that some of these people, it is sincere in the sense that they think that this is how capitalism works. Like, even if it's corrupt, it's like as long as the machine is going, and which means people are making money, then America is prospering. It doesn't really matter what's really happening.
But some of the agenda is not just the money, but also the the Christian nationalist position. Like Project 2025, which, as John had mentioned, can be scary and should be scary.
No, it is scary. Yeah. I mean, really, the whole movement has started around, Roe v. Wade. That's when people started sending their kids to private schools. And then the number of people. I mean, in the old days, like in the 80s and 90s, you'd have these lunatics like Buchanan that would, run for election. Yeah. They were pretty far right, not as far right as these people now. But they could never get more than 40% of the vote. But I think that, these, Christians who are just sadly like the people that Trump likes, just will follow orders and not ask questions. I think that number has increased. And that just does seem scary,
Yeah, they've definitely bought into the brand. So, so Trump is having the inauguration indoors because it's too cold. Although, a lot of recent inaugurations have been just as cold. But I'm pretty sure that the reason why he brought it in indoors is because he knew he wasn't going to get a huge crowd.
Yeah.
And so he didn't want that to happen, and he brought it in. So, but his people are saying, oh, he's actually doing it because he's thinking about the safety of the people in the audience, and he's just being considerate.
Someone else is saying it's the horses, that Trump did it for the horses.
Oh, no.
You go, yeah, like he gives a shit about horses.
That argument is a byproduct from a horse.
But
yeah, no,
he's
absolutely obsessed with the size of his crowd as it compares to other presidents. He is such a fragile ego. That's one of the things about one of the many things about the Harris campaign that just absolutely why they stopped using the word weird, because that was the one thing that seemed to really get underneath Trump's skin, and they stopped doing it, and I want to know why.
Yeah, why did they?
So the rumor mill is that the folks from the Biden campaign kind of came in and gave advice not to stop using it because it was not. They had numbers that said it wasn't polling well, or they thought it was just too mean and too nasty and kind of playing to Trump's level, which if that rumor is true, then that makes me even angrier that they would stop using it because it was working, and we're not. Yes, the presidential race is a popularity contest, but not in the sense of you want to be seen as the nicest person doesn't always win, but the most capable person should. And I mean, there's lots of reasons why Harris lost that campaign. I've said here multiple times, Trump didn't win, Harris lost. There are 12 million people that didn't come off the bench to vote, and one of the reasons what some of the people that I know who wanted to vote for her but didn't because she just kept taking these weak stances and kept pulling her punches. Sorry, there's a whole rabbit hole that I could go down with that. I won't.
Yeah, no, she didn't run a very good campaign.
Well, she ran a pretty decent campaign, actually, if you take a look at a couple of key factors. One is most presidential campaigns have at least 18 months to run. She had less than 100 days.
Yeah.
Yep.
She got closer to the popular vote than Trump got when he ran against Biden. And she did it with 12 million fewer people than voted for Biden. So if you take a look at the numbers and you take a look at the population disbursement, it is in those key areas of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Ohio, I think was the other key swing state, where if she had stuck to the use of the word weird, and if she had stuck to better messaging on working class issues, maybe that would have moved the needle. And this is me showing my old poli-sci and statistics background, and I'm getting really wonky, so I'll dial back. No, it's I could talk all day about campaigns and various missteps on both sides. There's usually one or two key things that campaigns, even for president, could have done that historically would have made outcomes much different. But Trump won this time, and he by all accounts he seemed to have won within the rules of the game. So
yeah.
Well, just like Biden won within the rules of the game, right? Despite their
well, no. You see, he clearly had a conspiracy of
he cheated.
Yeah, he cheated. He had the Jewish space lasers on his side, so that's
you can't beat the Jewish space lasers.
Well,
Yes.
let me ask you, Joe. So, after this term, there is a good chance that J.D. Vance might win the presidency. I mean, just because vice presidents have a little bit more of an advantage. Do you think he would be a good president?
I don't think so. And I mean, he's another person that disappoints me because, the fake J.D. Vance, the person he tries to project himself as being, came from, humble background, understands the working man. I mean, that guy would be a pretty good president, but I just don't really see that in anything he's done, or just he kind of reminds me of like a fraternity boy, like some college fraternity kid. What did he say today? He made some kind of quick comment. I thought it was just kind of a little bit of rude, especially since it's going to be taking office on Monday. I mean, some comment about Biden, I don't know, in relation, I guess, to the Equal Rights Amendment that Biden passed. And he actually used the word shit. It was a post on Twitter. If you're trying to pass some stupid shit or something, he recommended that Pete Rose be put into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Baseball Hall of Fame.
As long as you're trying to pass things that are meaningless, I mean, essentially was what he was trying to say. Why not say something about? I don't know. It just seemed like an unnecessary jab. Like the weekend while you're about to take office, this old man who's leaving, forget it. Like, why would you even respond to anything that he did or said? I don't know. He seems like a little cheap to me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like cheap shots. Kind of, he says things that I think are a little unexpected, a little ruder, where they just don't come off well from him, in my opinion.
Well, if you live, one of the sort of political theories that I think has been gaining traction in my mind is in the modern day of Twitter, when engagement at any cost is sort of the currency, then saying all of these outlandish things and saying that bringing up Pete Rose, which granted all of the trendy youths of today are always talking about Pete Rose, sure. But this idea of putting that out there so that it can get into the news cycle, so that he can stay, relevant because he's always being talked about, then the eyes are always on him and the eyes are always on his boss. And if at the end of the day, what's most important to them is not helping the country, it's not getting this or that piece of legislation, but staying at the top of the hour with the news broadcast. If the attention is their currency, then yeah, they're going to continue to say these things, and the best way to do that is through social media.
Yeah, I guess this is, any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah,
We are in that era, I guess. It does work. I look at it and I think this is stupid, but probably works. They won.
Well, you know how he called Trump a Nazi and all these like things that were really spot on.
Yeah.
But then he immediately turned around as soon as he got, into the VP position. So I can definitely see him. He's pretty much calculating how he can be the next president.
Who do you think the Democrats have to run against them?
Well,
sorry, who was that? I missed that. Who's trying
Vance.
to be the next?
Who do
Vice
they
President Vance.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, almost certainly Vance will run for president. He doesn't have Trump's charisma, though. He doesn't have the ability to whip up the crowd the same way. He comes across as a kind of a cheap imitation.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Governor Gavin Newsom would definitely be tilting. I think Newsom will run. I think Newsom's got a pretty good name recognition as well as his ability to fundraise. I think Buttigieg also has some pretty good connections and ability to fundraise. So I don't think his name can be completely ruled out. Those are the two names that sort of float to the top.
Yeah, I think both Newsom and Buttigieg they aren't going to do well. Buttigieg, just because he's gay, I don't think America is ready to elect a gay president. And Newsom, I think he just seems too liberal, so I think he's he'll just kind of fall into the, he's a California liberal kind of thing.
Yeah.
Reagan won because he was a Republican from California. But I think the Democrats just need to find out who the oldest capable person that they have and just elect that or nominate that person. That seems to be what they're trying to do.
I do think you have certain merit to the argument that maybe America isn't ready for a gay president, although there were those that said that America wasn't ready for a black president. So I wouldn't necessarily rule Buttigieg out just because he's gay. Yeah. I get what you're saying, and I'm not saying that you're wrong or you're out of place for even bringing it up. I think there are going to be those that would never vote for him because he is gay, just as much as there were those that would never have voted for Harris because she was a woman. I just think that if you've got 2.5, 3 years to soften your positions on certain things and be able to start fundraising and working in the backgrounds, folks like Newsom and Buttigieg know how the sausage is made, know how the back rooms work, and I think that you can, with good planning, be able to position yourself on issues so that even if you are a West Coast liberal, you can make yourself more palatable for the middle class and make yourself, with proper marketing, you can sell yourself to the Rust Belt pretty easily.
Yeah. So my
What do you
my
think
kind of go ahead.
what do you think how much did Harris being a woman factor into her losing?
Exactly.
Or do you think it was mostly just
Well,
time?
remember, Harris isn't the only woman who ran against Trump and lost,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
I was just trying to make that comment, actually, that America's not ready for a female president.
Yeah, I'm wondering how true that is, whether that is true. It might be.
Yeah,
Personally, I don't think the US will be ready for a female president. Maybe 2 decades minimum.
Yeah, I'm not.
Well,
it's too.
It seems a little to me like America's sort of a little bit like a car that's fishtailing down a road. It just keeps swinging wider and wider from one side to the other. So the reason we could get you guys could elect a black president is because of how white and the previous guy was. So yeah, it's it'd require some very significant amount of male bullshit to push it hard enough to get it over to the female, I suspect. Who knows? Maybe Trump #2 is what's needed.
I firmly believe that if America got a female politician like Thatcher, she'd get voted in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And really, even though I despise her, she'd be better than Trump. That's for sure.
Well,
but that's a low bar. So, yeah.
Well, that's because Maggie Thatcher definitely knew, again, like how to use politics to get her way, but also how to get.
She was smart. She had
she was smart and she was clever. I think Trump is clever. I'm not convinced he's smart. I think he's devious, and I think he's. It's one of those things where I think there are times when he's so dumb he is smart because he just sort of falls backwards into figuring out how to get things to go his way, or he's just so stubborn.
It's
he
what
knows
we
how
call
to.
Dingo smart.
What's up?
Yeah. Dingo smart.
Yeah. No, the idea of a Maggie Thatcher in America is certainly appealing, but I don't see any females within the Republican Party or even within the conservative movement that have the clout necessary to kind of rise through the ranks. The idea of an accidental president like Jimmy Carter, I don't see that happening again in American politics. There's too much of the machine in place. There's too much of the entrenched power brokers in both parties. And I don't think either one of them. The Democrats seem to be more willing to allow for powerful women. I don't see that happening within the Republican Party. But if you're going to have a Maggie Thatcher here in the States, I mean, who would it be? I mean, that's not a rhetorical question. Are there any vote? Marjorie Taylor Greene?
No.
No.
I
don't know a lot of female
Yeah.
I know
Oh.
several politicians in America, but she's not. She hasn't got the brain power to do it. The Alaskan
Yeah,
governor,
Sarah Palin.
Sarah
was
Palin.
going to.
Yeah, she's irrelevant.
Might
I mean,
have
not
at
now,
one
but
stage.
I think if she hadn't been such a loose cannon and she kind of like behaved
Towed the
or
line. Yeah.
Who was the
and gotten McCain elected, she would have had a really good shot at, for presidency.
Yeah. What was the other female conservative that was getting a lot of attention? She gave that guy a handy at the Beetlejuice.
Oh no, Boebert isn't going to.
Yeah, no, but I mean, as far as prominent females that have any kind of ranking within the Republican Party, that's who they've got. So there's not going to be a female Republican candidate for president anytime soon. Just they don't have the bench.
Oh, there's Christine Nome and maybe Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh yeah, okay, there you go, yeah, man.
Christy Nome, the dog shooter. That one's going to be hard to get past, honestly. I wanted to add a thing that I saw, which I thought was kind of interesting in the fallout of the Trump victory. Was a heap of the commentators talking about how the Democrat campaign was too far to the left, and it put a lot of voters off. And you think, what the fuck are these people watching? Because there was nothing left about Harris's campaign. It was straight down the center, trying to appeal to as many Trump voters as she could get, and ignoring all the people over on the left. And one asked the question whether a big chunk of those 12 million people who didn't turn out were people who didn't think Harris was far enough left for them.
Be interested, Joe. You've travelled around the world a bit, I assume. What's your view of how right American is and how left they are compared to other countries you visit or visited? Because from my position, America doesn't even, their left doesn't even come close to centre, what I'd consider centre politics. They're so far, everyone's so far right. There's going to take a huge mind shift, a huge change in philosophy. They still think that, healthcare for all is communism or socialism. How's that going to work, do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I really think since Clinton, I think, most of the Democrats have been very centered. They seem almost afraid to tout progressive measures, and they seem to cater to a lot of conservative concerns. I think it's been a general pattern. Yeah, I mean, what we call left is very centrist in America. I mean, just in terms of political views that you can have. And this is something I think that's interesting, though, that, like when you sort of silence these kind of conversations, when you think that there's a policy, like just a policy, talking about a policy could be some kind of like threat to the world order or something. It in effect silences, certain political strategies, and most of the American politicians are too timid. They're just afraid to go too far away from the mainstream, and they're very much afraid to be labeled liberals. That's like the death knell, and even that is just is so unfortunate, because it's really a perversion of the language.
Yeah.
But here we are.
It's it's one of the strange things that, and I mean, I over 30 years ago, I took a trip down the East Coast on a pair of Harleys with a mate, and the political mood of the country back then, especially the small towns we stopped at and everything, it was just so foreign to us. And I mean, we travelled, throughout Britain, Europe, all those places, and never had to watch our language, never had to watch politics or anything like that. Didn't have to worry about accidentally saying, fuck Jesus. It was such a culture shock. We've gone backwards, and what I don't really can't understand is, why is America so fixated on the past, on returning to whatever? I mean, even the the British have given up the wishing for the Empire glory days. It just seems like everyone wants to go. They have a fantasy land they want to return to. It's just funny.
Yeah, and it's worrisome probing at that reason, because it was a time where blacks and women had no voice. That's why they want to return. I mean, I can't think of another answer. That's not, when I think of the 50s, I just think of like white America. I mean, there was segregation, and I can't help but think that that's kind of what people want to return to. And I do think people have been fooled into thinking that, what the people with the white picket fences and the houses or whatever back in those days, like, the reason that I don't have the house is because they're giving all the money to, DEI, or to, Mexicans moving into my neighborhood or something like that. I mean, they think that somehow they're going to get that white picket fence back. But people are not going to get, people aren't going to get homes like they used to have, and they're not going to have careers by and large like they used to have. It's just, we're kind of, and the idea that Trump could bring that back, when in fact he's just going to exacerbate it, is going to make it worse, because it's going to make all the rich people benefit, and there will be no trickle down. But
one thing we've got our own problems over here. Last year there was a national referendum to give Australian Aboriginals a say in government, not a vote or anything, but just a voice. And the referendum was called The Voice, to give Aboriginal people a voice. And because we've got more than 3 parties in Australia, it got voted down, not because the main reason it got voted down, and Blag can correct me if I'm wrong, but was because the progressive parties, the Green Party and all the others, said it didn't go far enough. And I've never understood.
There was also a really good fear campaign that went with it as well. So that it would destroy everybody's rights. That we'd have to basically ask the 3% of Australians who are Aboriginal before we can do anything whatsoever. And it was just utter bullshit. But it was a great fear campaign, and it worked.
And it's that thing of everything's got to be achieved in small steps. This idea of it doesn't go far enough. Well, it goes a little bit. So vote for it. And it got kicked out. And as Blag just said, there's only 3% native Australians left. They're not going to take over Australia. Poor buggers have got it hard enough. And I see the same thing, only on a larger scale in America.
They make claims that they'll just go along and take everybody's homes for native title, and it's just not the case at all. And the what was it? There were some rules that were preventing the people from correcting or there were some rules that prevented people from correcting the lies that were out there as well. And you just go, well,
there were a couple of gag orders put on.
Yeah.
Crystal would know more about it, but it's just strange how the world is now. You can see it. They're following Trump's lead. It's like Trump has given the world permission to be the worst they can possibly be.
Yeah.
That's just something I've sort of come up with, but I think it's pretty spot on.
Yeah. Yeah, he's sort of encouraging being a jackass. People are following his lead.
I get the impression actually that a lot of the people who follow him quite strongly were people who are really successful in school. They were the jocks and the bullies and they weren't great at school, but they were number one in school. And then they get out in the real world, and the people who they were bullying get the great jobs, and they get to sit in a corporate office and tell the jackass jocks to keep shifting them boxes, and they didn't like it. So now, yes, they're given permission to go back to being that kid, and loving it.
Yeah.
You come at it from
a. You come at it with. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No,
I was gonna say you come at it from a perspective of politics as a zero-sum game, and if you treat economics from the perspective of scarcity, then it's very simple to give people to another group and say, well, the reason why you don't have the picket fence, the reason why you don't have these things, they took it from you, so elect me and I'll get it back. Right. You remember your life being great. Well, that's because if you were a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male, chances are you were at the top of the food chain growing up, but now you're not. And so you see it as being less than what it used to be. So now you're going to make America great again.
So I think we've kind of strayed a little bit from the original topic, and we've kind of gone past the allotted time, which I tried to keep at 90 minutes, but always it seems to get to like way past that. But this was definitely a very interesting discussion, and Joe, it was a pleasure having you on. And like I said before, I would love to have you on in the
Yeah,
future to actually discuss philosophy and kind of you know poke at your brain a little bit, and and maybe kind of get more input on some of the things that you're working on. And I'm certainly looking forward to your article on SAP. So yeah, keep us apprised on how that's going.
yeah.
Uh,
Hopefully, yeah. I pushed the due date back to March 2025, but so hopefully I'll have it done by
okay, sounds good.
then. All
So
right.
yeah, so just I mean, I'll be interacting with you as usual on Twitter, but yeah, just
Yeah.
and I'll ping you for any topic suggestions, or if you have anything like specific you wanted to discuss, or if you have any of the guys on Twitter and you get them to come on here and have a discussion,
Sure.
because frankly, it's really hard to have a discussion with Twitter posts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you know.
Yes.
Uh, so yeah, if you want to use this forum to have a discussion with someone, let me know. I'll be very happy to make the
All right.
arrangements.
All right. Well, I enjoyed talking to all of you and meeting all of you. It was very fun.
Joe, I
Excellent.
had a great conversation with you, man.
Yeah, you're going to have a few more followers on Twitter. Definitely.
Thank
Look
you all.
forward to it.
I mean, this channel isn't really that huge, so don't expect a huge amount. But
You're
yeah,
going to
so
have tens of more people following you.
On that matter, actually, congrats, QC. You busted through the 200 followers.
Yeah, well done.
oh
Woohoo!
yeah,
Well,
actually,
well
I have
done.
to.
Well done, sir.
I think Joe from TKA may have dropped off, but he was very helpful in bringing some of the
Yeah,
subscribers my way.
it
So
happened during the stream over on that channel.
yeah, yeah. So that was great, and really definitely a lot of thanks to Joe TK and Joe, our guest. So, and as always, thanks to the rest of the panel. And I always love having people interacting in the live chats. It's always
Yeah.
great to get their feedback, uh, and it just makes this content a lot better. Or our enjoyment of the stream is always better having the guys on the live chat. So, as always, I will end it here, and I will see you guys in the comments.
All right. Thank